Hey there, and welcome to the People Who Help People podcast. This is the spot for HR and people ops pros who are all about building better businesses by putting people first. We chat with founders and experts who've been there, done that, and are generous enough to share what actually works. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hello again. Today I'm speaking with Christian Malleck, Head of Human Resources at 4Cs, Canadian Centre for Christian Charities, about providing values-based support while protecting and enhancing the reputation of HR. Christian, happy to have you on the podcast.
Thanks,
Welcome.
Greg. Thank you. Great to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit more about 4Cs?
Yeah, for sure. So the Canadian Centre for Christian Charities is a charity that exists to support other charities all across Canada. So other charities can sign up for an annual membership and get access to a ton of resources, some of which are HR based. We exist to support charities that don't have their own capacity to handle HR, that maybe need some help with finance, really with absolutely anything that they could need. They can get their benefits through us, their pension through us. We exist to make other charities exemplary, healthy, and effective.
Ooh, I like that. I like that mission. Well said. And you're the head of human resources. What does that mean? What does that entail?
Yeah, so that means that I'm in charge of handling all the human resources matters for our organization, for the 4Cs, as well as being the one to answer most of the complex HR questions for our member charities. When any of the charities across Canada have an HR question, they can call in or email and talk to me, and I can talk them through various solutions, ways to approach things, tell them what they should do. It's sort of like having an extra HR person on the team that you can just reach out to.
So you've got both an internal responsibility with the people needs of 4Cs, those who work at 4Cs, as well as you're supporting the members with a variety of questions. Let me back up a step. You mentioned some of the HR support that you provide to your members. How many are there again?
We have about 3,400 charities that are members with us.
Okay, that's a lot of potential phone calls in a given day. So 3,400 members can either call you with a complex question or they can get their benefits from overseas. Do you also run the team that provides I'll call it outsourced benefits offering, or is that a separate?
That's a separate one. We have someone else who is our head of group benefits, and he handles that. Yeah. No, I'm really just the other HR aspects.
When you say the other HR aspects, tell me what that includes.
I deal with anything that has to do with recruitment, with training. I work mostly with policies. I would say it's very, very common for charities, especially smaller charities, to not have a ton of policies, or if they do have policies, they've borrowed a policy manual from some other organization and haven't done a whole lot with it. So I help with creating policies. I help with navigating complex situations. I talk a lot about the requirements around accommodation. You know, if somebody's got a disability or has been injured, something like that. I help people with knowing how to terminate employees. I really give them advice on anything that isn't legal advice. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't go into the details on some of the legally risky situations, but I give general advice on most HR topics.
And things like accommodation. I imagine there's different rules between the United States and Canada. So it's just 4Cs only, are all the members in Canada?
Yes, so all of our members are Canadian.
Okay. All right. So that makes it easier in that you just need to know Canadian rules. Does anything differ by province?
Yes. So there is legislation that's both federal and provincial. And so I need to familiarize myself with the various provincial legislations because I could be talking to somebody in Alberta, I'm in Ontario, and things are going to be different. So I have an awareness of all the various legislations.
Got it. And a moment ago, you mentioned recruitment or obtaining new talent. I assume, do you do recruiting for 4Cs, internal recruiting, or is it more advising, say, members on how they can do their own recruiting? Do you even do any recruiting for them?
So I do lead the recruitment at the 4Cs. For us, absolutely, I lead it. And it's a team effort. I'm not doing it alone. Obviously, I'm including our leaders and relevant managers and whatnot. But in terms of helping our members, I don't do their recruitment for them, but I will walk them through it, often helping people who don't have any kind of training or real experience with doing it. And so I am often creating recruitment policies that they can follow, and then also helping with creating documents. A huge question that I deal with are questions around what people are allowed to ask in interviews, because we've got the Human Rights Code, which covers several protected grounds. And normally, organizations are not allowed to ask questions about these particular grounds and are not allowed to base hiring decisions on them. These are things like age, disability, marital status, family status, things like that. However, there is something called a bona fide occupational requirement, and certain organizations have certain rules where you absolutely have to meet a certain requirement in order to perform that job. So, for example, if I'm helping a small church and they need to hire a pastor, it's pretty critical that that pastor holds the correct religious beliefs to be preaching to the congregation. And so in that case, there's a bona fide occupational requirement for Christian faith. And so there is a way that you are allowed to basically legally discriminate on one of these protected grounds. And so I deal a lot with
Discriminate or be selective.
I mean,
I think you're
it is be
being
selective.
selective.
Yeah,
Sure.
it's looking for a particular thing that otherwise you would not be allowed to touch.
Christian, before we started this episode, you and I spoke about providing values-based support. Can you tell me what that means to you?
Yeah, so it's really important to me, and it's really important to the 4Cs, that everything we do comes from a place of morality. We are an organization that really prioritizes love of other people, respect of people. We want to be generous. We really look at those words that we say we want to make other charities exemplary, healthy, and effective. We want to be the best of the best. And a big part of that is doing well by people. I'm often talking about how HR is all about stewarding your people really well. People have come to you, and it's your responsibility to take care of them, to make sure they have what they need, to make sure that their employment experience that they have signed up for, that they've committed to, is as good as you can possibly make it. So that's sort of the perspective and the mentality that informs everything that I do in HR.
That is a good North Star. And I think I heard you indicate, and we certainly talked before, it's in the subtitle, while protecting and enhancing the reputation of HR. So certainly living by those values, helping the charities that you support, the members that you support, live by those values is you're in a pretty key role, being their HR advisor, their values-based advisor.
Yeah, and there's a lot of uncertainty for people that don't do HR professionally, that don't know what they're doing. Things can seem daunting. There's legislation you have to know about. There's best practices that you assume exist, things like that. So it doesn't always immediately occur to people at charities how much it's appropriate, or how much you're able to let some of these morals and these ethics inform the way you do things. A good example of that is that there's a lot of information out there about legal minimums when it comes to legislation, right? So looking at minimum wage, the minimum amount of time somebody's allowed off from work, if they're sick, if they've had a baby, all of these things. And I'm often talking to charities and reminding them that the legal minimums are just that. They're just minimums, and that people are welcome to give more than what the law says, you have to as a baseline. And that actually doesn't occur to a lot of people. They, doing what they can, they'll go online, they'll say, oh, okay, this is how much, people in Ontario get 3 unpaid sick days. So I guess that's what we do. And one example that I often talk about is bereavement. So in Ontario right now, people are only legally entitled to 2 unpaid days for the entire year for bereavement. So if someone you care about, someone close to you passes away, you have 2 days, and it's not per person, that's total. It's a very, very low minimum. And so especially when I'm talking to Christian organizations, but when I talk to anybody, I'm saying that absolutely needs to be significantly more generous. We need to be understanding and caring about people in those very hard times and doing much, much better.
Right. What I imagine is that your members are benefiting from the fact that you have such a broad membership, for those HR professionals that just work in one organization, they're primarily focused on the needs of that one organization. But you're looking across a spectrum of organizations and you're nailing great ways to operate, like don't just do the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And you share that lesson across. So I think you provide an invaluable service to your members when you make those connections, when you bring out those points. That's very admirable. So you have a pet peeve. Your pet peeve is around protecting and enhancing the reputation of HR for those who maybe don't know better everything that we HR professionals endeavor to do. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, for sure. Throughout my whole career in HR, I've had lots of people coming to me personally with HR situations they've been dealing with. And I'm often hearing stories about, managers who are not doing a good job, not treating people well, companies that don't have good policies or are making mistakes that they don't realize are technically illegal, or just, really not caring about the people. And I've come to realize that many people have a very negative view of the field of HR, the department of HR. And so I hear a lot of people say that they believe HR only exists for the protection of the organization that it's serving. And that even those who claim to care about people or claim to be doing HR for the benefit of the employees, that they are only doing it for the protection of the organization. And ultimately, that's all that they care about. I see a lot of talk online about this. There's entire forums on Reddit that talk about how HR is not your friend and how they will throw you under the bus if it serves the organization. And it's a really sort of dark opinion. I have a lot of friends that tell me they wish I could be doing the HR at their organization because when we talk, the care I have comes through. And so I really do want lots of HR professionals to be aware that this is a reputation that is out there. I want people to be aware that the people you're supporting at your organization may have a history at other organizations or in other roles where HR was not trustworthy. And so even if you've built your organization's HR to be very engaging and generous and transparent, you may be dealing with people who have been burned really badly and have been burned multiple times over the years. And so I think that sometimes HR people need to look for opportunities to go above and beyond to really demonstrate how much they're caring for people or to really demonstrate how they're coming alongside people. I don't like to say necessarily advocating or protecting because I don't want to build something where it suddenly feels like HR is against the organization and is just, like a union rep for the person. But demonstrating that your priority is everyone there at work having the best time possible.
Sure. We have a 24-year-old daughter, and she started out her career in HR. And it's a brief career so far, 2 years. But it strikes me that whether you're 2 years at HR or 20 years at HR, we call you an HR professional. But in reality, as you're indicating, it takes a while to develop the true breadth of skills to recognize those nuances like you just discussed. Yes, there's a compliance responsibility to the organization, but there's also an obligation in the profession to take care of the people. And it sounds like you understand that balance, but by leading with a values-based support, you're able to recognize, yes, let's take care of compliance, meet the minimums, and go above, but let's be focused on the people we serve, the people of the organization and the members that you serve.
That's a really good point. And the difference in experience is really important. And I will say something that I think has been hugely beneficial to me has been networking in the HR field with other HR professionals, but not just meeting everyone that I possibly can. Early in my HR career, I was attending a lot of HR events through our certifying body. So I'm a member of the Human Resources Professional Association, the HRPA. They give me my designation, my CHRL, and they host events. And so you can go to these events. But going to these events, I am always wearing my business shirt. I'm sitting beside other people during a work day. We have some brief small talk. Where do you work? How are you doing? And then we're listening to a speaker. And I decided that I needed to know more about the people that I was building my relationships with, because if I need help, if I'm facing something I've never felt before, I want to reach out to other people who have dealt with it, but I want to be reaching out to people that are going to approach it in the way I want to approach it, the ones that are values based. And so I've done two things. First of all, I'm very active on our HRPA forums. There's a lot of people constantly posting questions, and I'm often giving answers, and I post questions to get answers. But being able to see how other people answer a variety of HR situations, it shows me what their approach is. And so I will often reach out to those people and say, hey, can we connect? I like your answers. And I have people doing that to me all the time. And then the other thing I did was monthly, I host a casual HR hangout in my city. So I book a reservation at a restaurant, usually 8:30 at night, so I can have put my kids to bed. And then I go and I sit in this restaurant and I'm just wearing my t-shirt and jeans. I'm enjoying half price appetizers. And I put out a broad call to anyone in my city or surrounding cities that want to come and sit and swap HR stories. And it's been really cool to get HR professionals from different industries, but we're in a really casual setting. We're very real. And we talk about some of the difficult situations that we've dealt with. And again, it's an opportunity to hear how people are dealing with things. And I've built my network again in a really good way where if I have a question and need to reach out to people, I know who to reach out to that's going to do their work from a values based perspective.
I like that selective approach to networking, where you've cultivated your network to be others you know are values based, like minded, and then you create opportunities. The 8:30, I call it 8:30 in jeans, t-shirt and jeans. There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
T-shirt and jeans at 8:30. Let's swap stories because we learn through stories, right? We learn through
exactly.
sharing. Obviously, we're not shouting out names of those involved, and
No, we all
while
have a
we're
very good
enjoying our
understanding of confidentiality. That's the nice thing
sure,
too. Like we're all
sure.
HR people, so we get the bounds,
There's this situation. There was this fellow.
Exactly.
It sounds
Exactly.
like a two great ways to just continue to become, as you said, a more well-rounded professional and understanding how to provide both values-based support and also protect and enhance the reputation of HR. All right, Christian, I've really appreciated this conversation today. If others have heard this podcast and would like to get in touch with you, how do you recommend they reach out?
So I invite anybody that wants to reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can find my profile there. You could also email me. I'm very responsive to my emails. And you can also find me through the 4Cs website.
Terrific. I'll include all of those links in the podcast so folks can reach out to you.
That's great. Thank you.
Christian, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you for sharing what I believe are some unique but very valuable perspectives on how we can continue to protect and enhance the reputation of HR.
Thanks, Craig. This has been great.
Thanks, Christian.